just finished a cabinet meeting where we were talking about the upcoming state of the state and the upcoming budget and some ideas for the state of the state and a frame for the state of the state and what different agencies were contributing and what we needed. And we're going to end the meeting with an update from Mike Copey, who's head of emergency services, on the storm, which was last night, which was much worse in many parts of the state than anyone anticipated, and kept a lot of people up all night working. Mike Copey, chief among them. But let me turn it over to him for his briefing of the current situation.
Thank you, Governor. As many of you know, we had a significant storm that impacted every county of the state last night. Began yesterday morning and is still underway, and will clear the state some point 6 o'clock or so this evening. Brought high winds and significant rain. A number of state agencies began planning for this event on Monday. There was a lot of awareness that this was going to be an event, although we did not anticipate that it would get to this level, but we had significant plans that were in place that we kept improving upon as the rain totals and the wind gusts began to increase. Last night we saw significant wind gusts in the 60-mile-per-hour range, and we saw heavy rainfall in the watershed that leads into the Mohawk Valley area. We saw rain totals of 3.6 inches in Oneida County, 5.2 inches in Herkimer County, and then 5.6 inches in Hamilton County. This created significant flooding in areas downstream, in Utica, in Rome, in Herkimer, in Dolgeville, and a number of other communities. We were ready to respond very quickly. We had swift water assets. These are trained state employees who were pre-deployed to areas around this region, and they immediately went into service. This morning at about 6 a.m., they responded and began a rescue operation in the village of Dolgeville on North Main Street. It was in that area that a river had broken through a berm and created a 6-foot flood through the middle of downtown through this hamlet. 6 people, including an infant child, were trapped in a building. The representatives from State Fire cut their way into the back of a property and took a Zodiac life raft, tied ropes, and risked their lives to save that family. And I am certain that if any one of them had gone into the water last night, they would have died. It was truly a pleasure to see them work like that. And we are thankful as New Yorkers to have people who are trained to that level and willing to risk their lives. So I thank them here today. We also had an incident in the town of Norway where an individual who at this point is as yet unidentified failed to obey a traffic control signal and people who were waving him off, and he proceeded into a flooded area. At this point, what we know is that he got out of the car and we believed he was swept away by the flood. Unfortunately, we were unable to get to him, and his location is unknown at this time. Additionally, we're working a serious incident in the village of Frankfurt. Again, a berm has become compromised by the high floodwaters. We have representatives from the Office of Emergency Management, the State Police, the Department of Transportation, Department of Environmental Conservation, who are on scene there taking a number of actions. We're working with the community to evacuate people to the local high school and provide them services there. Additionally, we're working with the local village engineer to ensure that they have the right equipment necessary to shore up that berm so that we don't have flooding. During the height of the storm last night, we saw 240,000 outages. Those are individual meters that were out of service. As of 10:15 this morning, that number dropped to about 233,000. That number is dropping steadily at this point. That does not take into account 185,000 outages that were repaired during the course of the event. At this point, Erie County is leading the way. Again, this is as of 10:15 this morning. They had approximately 43,000. Saratoga, Dutchess, St. Lawrence, and Niagara counties are each in 15,000 outage range. And this is the first storm that I've seen that every single county in the state sustained outages. So we've been in close contact with the Public Service Commission, as well as with each of the utility providers. Starting on Monday, we wanted to make sure that they had the right resources in place. They did to the extent possible because, as you know, that this storm really impacted the entire Northeast. So it was difficult to get other assets because no other company wanted to give up their crews. They are currently in the process now of recovering through some areas that were less hard hit, as well as other parts of the state that did not sustain the same damage as the Herkimer or Oneida County area. That said, Governor, I'm confident that, you know, the public is safe, and we're working to make sure that everybody is back. One final thing, we had 94 roads, state roads last night at the height of the storm were closed, either because of damage caused by flooding or because they were completely underwater. That number is currently down below 65. It is going to take a period of time to reopen these roads, so we're urging the public just to stand with us, but we want to make sure that the road is safe. It could have been undermined by the water. There could have been damage to bridges. So it's better that we just take a little extra time and that we have these roads and bridges properly inspected. We have 17 inspection teams that have been brought into the Oneida Herkimer area right now just to inspect the roadways in that area. So we expect that that process is going to take a couple days, and we certainly will keep the public updated. And just finally, I'd like to go to some footage that we have from last night. The governor and I arrived in Dolgeville at about 6 a.m. this morning. As the governor said, we were up all night. We had teams at the Emergency Operations Center at the bunker who were monitoring us. Fortunately, we had Commissioner Pat Murphy and his assistant Dan O'Hara, who were in the field all night and coordinating the activities. And I want to thank them also. But if we can, just go to the footage, please.
This is the mayor of the town who lost her mother in the 2013 flood. Roof of the car, that white object in the middle of the water.
Danny, you want to haul on the line or you want to walk up? I'm just going to walk up and hold on. I'm going to grab the blue one. There's more time. Copy, brother. Yep, I'm good. Yep, I'm good. Go ahead.
Well done. That's an important package.
Yep. Yep. Keith.
There you go. Oops, sorry. That's okay.
Thank you.
She walked up that hill barefoot, and it was cold. The water was running so fast, I was afraid the house was going to be swept away. Washed the cars right down the block. That was the important package. Let me say this. The We're going to declare a state of emergency in the following counties: Cayuga, Chautauqua, Dutchess, Erie, Essex, Hamilton, Herkimer, Montgomery, Oneida, Saratoga, Warren County. We're going to deploy 200 National Guard who are going to help. Many of these situations are still ongoing. There's going to be a lot of debris to clean up afterwards. Many of the homes are going to be uninhabitable, so the National Guard will help with that. I'd also like to make the point, these situations just remind you, this emergency management function did not exist on the state side before we got here. And it is much more sophisticated than it ever was. My father was governor for 12 years. There was no such thing as an emergency management operation. The emergencies were snowfall, should you close the thruway or not, right? That was the extent of it. Even under Governor George Pataki, they had a very modest state emergency management. This is a direct result of extreme weather. And it comes in all sorts of ways. I mean, it's what we're doing. We just talked about Reddy and Lake Ontario. That's extreme weather and these big episodes, but it's any given night. Any given night. We talked last night about 11 o'clock. They were talking about a storm, but they weren't talking about anything like this. And the earlier conversation about management. Everything has to work to bring that child out of that house. Everything had to work in a matter of minutes. That water comes up. That house could have been gone any minute with that force of water. Think of all the things that have to happen to get to that point. You had to have the state police there. You had to have the swift water rescue team. You had to coordinate with the local police. You had to have all the trucks in place. Everything had to be lined up. The ambulance had to be there. And they did an extraordinary job all through the night and all through this morning. Mike Copey, God bless him, he has done such a magnificent professional job. Kevin Bruin, the state police, just breathtaking. And every one of your agencies plays a role. DEC had equipment there this morning. Parks, Forest Ranger had an airboat there this morning. The high axle vehicles had been transported this morning. Everyone has to do their piece, and it has to happen like this, and it has to happen at 3 o'clock in the morning. And people don't normally expect that kind of response from government, but it is something that we do, and we do it extraordinarily well. And it is literally a matter of life and death. I mean, when I saw that, when they were talking about the family that was stuck in the house, and that's a problem. But when they showed the baby at the window, it really just brings the impact and the consequence home. And I had my heart in my mouth. But that swift water rescue team, that was tricky. They did a magnificent job. And everything else was in place. Everything else. When we do the drills and we talk about how everything has to happen and DEC, we keep, I know it's frustrating when we do those, the inventory, where are all the boats, where are all the trucks, where are all the trailers, because this could happen anywhere in the state, and you want to know, you push a button, what can we get to this one spot in a half an hour, in 45 minutes, so you need to know where everything is. But it worked. It worked last night, and we saved lives last night. There is no doubt about it. Let's give Mike Copey and the state police